This is True Buzz, that Mary J. Now we ain't new to this. For my stoners and for my cannabis enthusiasts, never heard a show as good as this. Number one, it's the best. Bringing in many special guests in the industry of cannabis. Business owners to growers, even artists you know of. So sit back and just roll up. Perfect show for my smokers. True Buzz, hey.
Welcome to the True Bud Show podcast. We have Alex Gettlin in the building again today. Man, it's been too long. That was like way pre-COVID, man.
I know, right? Thanks for having me back, bro.
Hey, dude, it's my honor, truly. I've been diving into the Highly Unlikely podcast.
Hell yeah.
And I want to talk about it, but I think you can do it better than me. So just
Sure.
give a little breakdown for everybody, man.
So Highly Unlikely is a show that I created and I host, and the quick premise is I bring on a guest, I get them high, and then I teach them about a subject that seems highly unlikely, but it's 100% true. So every episode, we've got different topics. The one coming out on Tuesday is about Navy SEAL training. We did one on what's it like to be in the Secret Service, what it's like to be a billionaire, all the lies that the food pyramid told us when we were growing up. So they're all on different kind of cool, fun subjects. And each of my guests is learning about it while they're stoned. And so it's just like a really fun kind of bantering. I'm educating them. They're, dropping in like their reactions and funny banter as we do it. It's been great. So we did 8 on this first season, and probably almost for sure more coming soon. So,
It's great, man. Like I said, I was diving in a little bit with everybody. Everyone had, at least on when I went through your IG trailers. I didn't dive through the whole podcast to be honest, but going through the trailer on your IG, man, had me like, damn, I'm missing out, man. And
Thanks,
I think
dude.
correct me if I'm wrong. I think when we first had our podcast, you were telling me this was all in the works. You're like, I have this idea that I'm working on. I'm coming up with this, and it's dope to see it come to fruition and be legit with WikiLeaf, man.
Dude,
and shout out to WikiLeaf.
Yeah,
for that too,
shout out to WikiLeaf. I actually have a gift for you from WikiLeaf.
Oh, shoot.
They sent me a bunch of these for the first season, so you could pop that open. It's a little something for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is a sick little case, man.
Yeah, and it's got some WikiLeaf pre-rolls in there.
Okay.
So,
All right. Appreciate that,
Yeah,
man.
my
Nice,
pleasure.
bro. I'm about to spark one of these up right now,
Yeah,
man.
go for it, dude.
Word, man.
So yeah, what's cool? So I've had this idea for a while, and because I'm very much like end of the day, enjoy my night smoker. I'll smoke during the day a little bit if I'm on vacation or something, but in general, it's like how I enjoy the evening. So I'm a big kind of like get high, like a good sativa or hybrid, and go down a YouTube rabbit hole or watch a crazy documentary. I love like learning stuff while I'm stoned. And then it just kind of dawned on me like, dude, this would be a great show or a podcast to do. And then I was kind of sitting on the idea because there's only so many projects you can do for free. There's only so many hours in the day, right? So I'm like, I'll get to it eventually. I don't have time. And my wife, to her credit, who helps me produce this show, she found a posting that WikiLeaf was looking to get into the podcast space. So I sent them a pitch deck of my project, and they loved it. And here we are.
Shit, man. That's sick,
It's
dude.
cool, yeah.
Hell yeah,
It's
man.
been
Yeah,
great.
yeah. It's and you have some really cool guests on there too, man.
Yeah, we had some great people. So Ben Glebe, he's got a special on Amazon. He's on Netflix. Slink Johnson, he does one of the voices in Grand Theft Auto 5. Chris Cope, he's been on Conan. He's on a Netflix show. He's a judge on I think the show's called Cooking on High, and it's like a cannabis cooking contest.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So we had legit, and they're the funniest people I know. Everybody on there's really funny, really different energy too, which was cool. Because some of the people, like Chris Cope, is a veteran weed smoker. I mean, he smokes every day. He is a weed guy. And then we had Shantae Wayans on, who she kind of smokes here and there, but pretty novice. So she was super high during the show, and it was just cool to get the different energies from each guest. And I did I kind of tailored the subject around the guest to an extent. So, for example, Ben Glebe, he's kind of a politically focused comic. He actually ran for president in 2020.
What?
So, yeah, I did his episode. Yeah, he had an actual presidential run. He didn't go very far, but, it was still cool.
How many people can say that, right?
Right, yeah. He did it for 6 months, in all seriousness.
Shit.
Yeah. So I did his episode in the Secret Service because I figured, that was kind of in his wheelhouse, So, yeah, it was cool.
And it's and that's why it's really cool, man. I think from in the way even the name ties in everything, the whole concept, man, is really dope. Of just highly unlikely, bro.
Dude, yeah. Well, because that was I don't even remember how I came up with the name. I do know I changed the show a little bit because I originally I was going to do it all about conspiracy theories because I thought it'd be funny to like break down how highly unlikely these different conspiracy theories are. And then I'm not a conspiracy like I find them amusing, but it's not like my world. And then once I started like diving into a lot of them, they were all either like absurd, right? Like one of them do you remember who John Benet Ramsey was? She was this child model in the familiar. 90s. So yeah, she was like, this was like big tabloid news when we were kids. Somewhere in the 90s, early 90s, she was a child like beauty pageant star who wound up dead. It was like this big scandal. So there's a conspiracy theory that Katy Perry is her as an adult, and it was this. So they're all like very like yeah, they're dumb, like really like stupid dumb ones, or they're just like you spend a little time on there, and it always turns into like crazy like racism backed or people who think that like. I don't know. Either way, it was just like it was a world that I was like found amusing from a distance. But when I got into it, I'm like, I don't want to do a whole show. So then I pivoted it to something of just how about just like weird, interesting stuff. Like I've one about ancient Egypt, and just like really funny, like weird stuff I've learned. Like for example, so like the ancient Egyptian creation story. They have like thousands of gods in their like ancient Egyptian religion. So they believe that their original god, Atum, created the world by masturbating into the void of nothingness, and then all life came from that. So it was like a tradition. The pharaohs would go down and masturbate into the Nile River because they thought it would help give them more fertile crops. And it's just like random, yeah, right? Just like random weird shit I was learning just from like YouTube and Wikipedia and whatever. And then, my guest is a professional comedian who's stoned out of their mind learning this. So, yeah.
That's where it's hilarious. And that with like, I don't know, it doesn't sound half bad. Catch me at the Nile. Shit.
Yeah, right, dude.
No, but that's really cool, man. That working it in. It's that's where the space is cool, man. And I love the creativity with it. Like I know we're briefly talking before this is like the to me a lot of the most important part with cannabis right now is the narrative, and that's with all brands and shit. But it's like when you dive in deeper to just like buy my product. This is like and that's not even what you're doing at all.
Right.
But just like actually like the companies like WikiLeaf and all these others out there who I fuck with too, who are like we're willing to spend a little money to bring in like real, actual, legitimate content that, can convey to others in so many other ways that dive so much deeper than just like a pop-up banner ad.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing with with cannabis in general, which like WikiLeaf is like making content in the space, 10 years ago and all like the whole century before that, everybody associated weed with like burnout stoners or just like your lazy sort of degenerates, right? But now, I mean, people understand there's so much more to the space. I mean, there's like all of the wellness element, and also like I know it's like almost like too easy to like use Joe Rogan as an example, but he is the perfect example of like you can be a stoner and not be a lazy bum, like who works out like crazy, super successful,
He's pioneered a lot of, I think, like at least especially in my mind, I don't know his analytics or any shit like that, but like for like even people that are older, he's made it more like acceptable. I think like
100%.
Like Joe's smoking a joint talking to fucking like
Elon Musk.
Yeah. It's like and people see that like, oh damn, like
I know he's joked he's like the liaison between the meatheads and the potheads.
I believe that makes sense.
Yeah, but what I think's cool about the space, a lot of cannabis brands, the smart ones in my opinion, are getting involved in content in some way, because I think we're about 10 years away, maybe less, from like what to me a great example of someone who really understood this whole world was like Red Bull. Like Red Bull, when you think of Red Bull, and I said, what's a Red Bull show to you? And you immediately think of like skateboarders, snowboarders, a guy jumping out of space with a parachute. Like they kind of dominated that whole like energy drink, extreme sports kind of like Red Bull gives you wings, rock on thing. I see a lot of that happening in the future. And also like, my wife, she's really into wellness, and she like uses these like CBD bath bombs and different things like that. Like that whole space I think is, kind of like your basic white woman, Gwyneth Paltrow type thing. Like that whole world now is like excited about cannabis. Whereas like 10 years ago, a lot of those people would probably look at it like, right. It's for like, burnout losers or like grungy frat guys. Right. So it's cool to see. It's also, I think Remember when Michael Phelps got like there was like a big scandal that he smoked weed?
Yeah. The bong picture.
Yeah, and it's like if anything, that just proves that you can smoke weed recreationally and not only be like a functioning adult, but be one of the best athletes in the world, undisputed. You know,
and that's where I don't like follow sports, but I know that like the NBA said they're not going to do drug tests anymore on weed.
Yeah, they shouldn't.
Which is like that. It's like these moves like that are big.
Yeah,
like it's like you're saying 10 years ago, people would get like, and even it's still in the Olympics, it's still considered a performance enhancer.
That is so absurd to me.
Like
a performance enhancer.
Like it's a fucking like some fucking juice or something. Yeah. But like I guess like, and that's where I'm kind of weird. Is like I get what they're saying to it in my head because it's like, yeah, to me sometimes when I'm working out I do see it like that, but really though, really no.
I mean, yeah, well, do you know what the kind of impetus for like making cannabis illegal in the U.S. came from? Like where the big push? Do you know about this or I don't know?
Yeah, it's like all this here.
Oh yeah, all the reefer madness.
Yeah, it's
shit.
all the reefer madness, all that shit, all the prohibition, all the just racial shit.
Yeah,
and a lot of it comes back to like just making money on the printing game.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, fucking William Randolph Hearst, fucking.
Yep. He was the main pioneer behind.
Yeah, just a piece of shit, really.
Yeah, so episode 5 of my show is we do the whole war on drugs. And I break down, a big part of it was William Randolph Hearst, and he wanted people to use like his paper instead of hemp paper. Also, I forget the guy's first name, but something Mellon. It wasn't, maybe it was Andrew Mellon. One of the famous
that sounds right.
Mellon billionaires. He had a lot of money in nylon rope, and they didn't want people to use hemp rope. And yeah, I learned that like cannabis is the English word. Marijuana is the Spanish word, and they kept using marijuana because they wanted to scare people that all the Mexicans with their marijuana would like ruin America. And so it just like you look at that and it's like this is so preposterous, dude.
Well, exactly, and that's where like Hearst just failed because he fucked up with prohibition. Prohibition was over, and he's like, "Oh, I need to make money. I need to stay in office. Let me fucking." And before this, the thing that he said was, "Oh, I don't see it as anything bad."
Yeah.
Then fucking prohibition fails and he comes up and he's like, "Oh, I see it as basically the devil."
I mean, dude, the fact that we can sell Oxycontin in mass quantities.
It's absurd.
Have you
That's
seen
all.
Keep going. All right.
No, you go.
Have you heard about this documentary? I think it's called Crime of the Century. It's on HBO right now, and it's phenomenal.
I wanted to watch it.
Dude, it will blow your mind. Okay, so it's basically the story of the Sackler family that owns Purdue Pharma that created Oxycontin. And it's not only like how they created Oxycontin, but it's also how they worked with... They basically bribed someone at the FDA to make it like officially FDA safe, quote unquote, because before this, a lot of doctors, and still today, a lot of doctors are very hesitant to prescribe opiates. Understandably, because these are like heroin pills. It's really only meant to be given to someone who's like terminally ill with cancer or something. And it's like, look, you're going to have a terrible end of your life. Let's at least make it pain-free as possible, which is a very worthy thought. The problem is there's so much goddamn money involved in this, medication that they were just, they got FDA approval. Then they had all these sales reps that were just pushing it on these doctors that are like, look, the FDA said it was safe. Meanwhile, it's like admitted that they were bribing this guy at the FDA. And then there was like this one example where this gentleman was saying how his wife, I don't remember what happened to her, but she got prescribed Oxycontin by her physician. And then she was like getting horribly addicted to it. So her husband and her children got her off it, got her into a treatment program. She like kicked the habit, and then her physician intervened and was like, "I'm her doctor. You can't tell her what she should and shouldn't take." Got her back on the Oxy, and then she OD'd shortly afterwards. And it's like, dude, that story is told over and over and over and over again. And it's like, we've allowed, I think they said something like 500,000 people roughly have died. It might be more than that, but I think it was, I'm going to watch the documentary. I might be getting this wrong, but it's around 500,000 people have OD'd off Oxycontin in X amount of time, right? And it's like, that's still legal. But in half of the country, you would be in prison right now for that, for smoking that. It's just so preposterous.
There's just such a big fucking disconnect. And that's where it's like, to me, it's awesome to see legalization, and I truly want it. But that's part of the dark side to it too, is that finally these motherfuckers who've been making bank off people's fucking addictions because they've fed them all this shit now want to get money on the weed game, and they will because they have the fucking capital to throw down. And like that's where I'm on the fence, like where I'm like, it comes back to me like support the local kind of mom and pop grows who are still, you know, enough like legal or whatever. But it's like that's the line we're at right now because these companies are seeing it and they're getting in it.
Right.
And it's like,
and they have the muscle to push out the small.
They have the muscle, and they're going to spend the marketing towards, like in my head, they're going to spend it towards, you know, your first time users, the people who want to first use it, and then they're going to use their shit, and then they're going to like find ways to fucking. And this is the first time I'm even thinking this, saying this, you got me going. They're going to find ways to kind of sink the claws in off the bat. If it's your first time using through, you know, so and so who's a pharmaceutical back end, they're going to find ways, and maybe I don't know. I'm fucking on a rant here, but
no, so you're right, dude. Well. And I don't know the inner workings of it, but I have heard a lot of people talk about problems with the industry to that, where the way the laws are now and how the infrastructure of the industry is set up, it gives a very unfair advantage to the people with the most amount of capital to kind of come in and buy. Again, I don't know the nuances, but I'm sure that makes sense. It's unfortunate. I still think that it's better to have that and have it legal
100%
than, you know, because otherwise. It's funny to me. I do wonder what state will be the last one to finally legalize, because I think now it's fully legal. I think in 11 states. I think
it might even be a little more now. I've been falling out of the news a little bit. I used to keep track of this every week. I want to say
I think it's recreational in 11 states, and then it's like some level of medical in like another. I don't know. I know that.
Look it up, Phil. There's nobody here.
Oh, I was like,
I can look it up. Just fucking.
I was like, do you have someone in another room? That... But I do know. I read recently that 50% of the U.S. population lives in a place where it's legal. So the places where it's like the places that are the most hardcore against it, most of them are like pretty empty anyway. Like South Dakota, Montana.
Yeah, I think it won't even be just one. I think it'll probably be like a group of like 5, and it's going to be federal.
I don't understand why, if any candidate ran on, I'm gonna like in 2024, if either president, whoever runs, I don't think Biden will be back. I hope Trump's not. I hope it's 2 new people. But whatever, if they just run on like, by the way, all like in my presidency, it will be fully federally legal. They'd win in a landslide, dude.
And that makes perfect sense. That's kind of like the vibe. Some of them were like Biden was almost giving off on a little. Honestly, and that was like I've fallen. I don't even hear as much since Trump's been gone. You hear so much in the headlines when Trump was in. Like, yeah, I don't really keep up with it. But
well, Trump. Well, sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good. No, you're good. Like,
I'm actually very into politics.
And I'm not. Then that's why I'm like, I don't know.
Not in the sense like I think they're all full of shit. I think they're all very corrupt. I don't align myself with Democrats or Republicans. But I find it interesting, like the inner workings of it, and especially this past year with like all the ridiculous rules of like, this is open, this is closed, this is, you can do this, you can't do that. And it made me very interested in getting involved with the libertarian movement, which is sort of like, I'm not a spokesperson for, I'm not, you know, but my understanding is it's basically minimal government regulation and intervention as much as possible, maximum just like free market. What was my... Oh, but anyway, but when I think the thing with the Trump stuff is like most people don't know or care about the nuances of like how the Federal Reserve works, you know, how like what our foreign policy is and things like we have these like vague understandings of and I don't either. I'm trying to understand them. But Trump was such like a buffoonish, ridiculous character. It was just so easy to make headlines out of everything he said. You know?
Yeah, and shit, it is funny to think about now. Like even thinking about that, like thinking of some media companies, like, nah, fuck, what? Like Biden's not even fucking fun.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, what are we gonna do now?
All the mainstream news outlets, their ratings have been plummeted.
They don't know what to do. They're like, what was all this fucking?
That's it. They lost their thing. I mean,
well, and that's what ties it to me too. With like we're saying with like the mainstream pharmaceutical shit is like. These days, too, people are smart enough to know, in my opinion, like with the media or especially in the cannabis space, because they know it's like, oh, and that's where I have hope, because when I see the cannabis space and people that respect this culture and the community, they're not going to go buy some shit where it's, you know, backed by a pharmaceutical company. However, that being said, the same people will not do the research to know.
Yeah, and the thing is...
And there's so many convoluted ways, maybe, to have it out there.
When you start looking into who's paying to keep it illegal... Like I saw that like Corrections Corp America, which is like this organization that represents most of the private prisons in the US, they've donated like millions and millions of dollars to certain congressional campaigns to support congresspeople who are very pro keeping marijuana illegal. So it's like, okay, so the body of like the organization that represents keeping as many people in prison as possible is fighting to keep cannabis illegal. What does that tell you? I mean, think about how fucked that is.
It's insane.
An organization that profits by keeping humans locked in cages wants to keep humans locked in a cage for a fucking plant.
Fucking numbers game.
It's just so gross when you think about it.
It is. And gross is a good word for it, honestly.
Well, it is. I mean, I did... so a lot of this is, like I said, from episode 5 of Highly Unlikely, if you guys want to check it out, the War on Drugs one.
Check it out. A
big part of it, too, was Nixon, when he was president. So he was the first one to push the modern war on drugs, what we know of it today. And a big part of it was like, well, we've got all these black people voting and young hippies and all these, like, liberal, very, like, people that were, like, not of the thinking that he, as the president, wanted to have. So it's like, well, what's a way we can take away people's political power and right to vote? Well, if we start locking people up in mass for doing drugs, pretty easy way to control the population of folks that we don't like. Yeah. And on average now, the U.S. government spends around $51 billion a year fighting the war on drugs. And since it was launched in 1971 officially, drug use in the U.S. has declined by 0. It's only gone up.
And that has to go back to the pharmaceuticals once again. But with that stat, you know what popped in my head? I had a buddy tell me. I have not back-checked this.
All right.
But with all this stimulus stuff and everything going on, he said basically that all the money that's ever been printed and circulated, 25% of it has been made in the past year.
Yeah, I saw that too. I believe it.
That's insane. Like, this was literally last night. That's why it popped in my head. I'm like, this is blowing my mind. Well, it makes sense, though.
It does, and it also is just like a reality check of like, oh, all of this is kind of bullshit. Like this whole society we live in. Listen, I love living in the U.S. There's a lot of great things here. I'm not an anti-America, anti-capitalism person by any means whatsoever. But it's a reminder that like, oh, this whole like system we have, it's kind of fairy dust in a way. Like this currency they keep printing. It's like
real talk.
I don't know. Like what we have like. In our lifetime, we're gonna see the American dollar plummet. You can't just print money over and over again and have it maintain value.
And I think just like disappear. I think, and it's gonna happen one day. Just the regular $1 bill.
Yeah,
will probably be worth hundreds, thousands of years. Think 1,000 years from now, a $1 bill right now, 1,000 years from now would probably be worth like X amount.
I mean, 1,000 years. I don't even know if humans will be here in 1,000 years.
Damn.
Well, I'm just saying, think about this. Think about how many...
I got you. I'm following.
Think about how many countries on Earth have the reset button. And what I mean is like how they have like tons of nukes, right? You have nukes, you effectively have quote unquote the reset button, right? Like America, China, Russia, Pakistan, Israel, who else has nukes? England, I think. Either way.
Probably people we don't even know too. Probably just some random fucking...
All these countries can hit a button and end civilization. Now, thank God no one has done that yet because no one wants to wipe out the species. Like people talk about like, oh, America's going to go to war with China or Russia. It's like, no, we're not, because it would be the end of the species if we went to like actual full-scale war. But statistically, in 1,000 years, some psycho will become a leader of a nation that has the nukes and will end up launching them. I hope this doesn't happen. I have nothing to back this up. I'm just saying, like, odds-wise, eventually. So let's think 1,000 years in the future, right?
But also, too, there is the counter attack, if you will, if the technology progress on the back end too, to like propel it, split it up. I don't know how nukes work at all, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
if there was a way to like, oh, it's coming in, satellite, bam, bam, being like fucking force field exploded. I don't know.
So. All of the, I know, and I'm just repeating things that like experts have shared, but at least Russia and the U.S. and China all have a system set up where, like, let's say, for example, we went to war with Russia and we wiped out all of Russia before they could even get, like, the humans could launch their nukes. Their system is set up in a way, and I'm sure every country has this, where if we were to quote unquote wipe them out, their system auto launches all of their nukes and it's basically a deterrent. So like, let's say you and I had both nukes and and I'm Russia. If you killed me before I could launch it, the system is set up in a way where it would within a window of time realize that and auto launch them anyway.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not saying like nuke them, the actual.
Right, you're saying shoot it out of the sky.
Is that like, how does it drops out of somewhere, right? It drops out of a plane. It's shot. How are they?
It doesn't drop out of a plane. It shoots out of the ground and like so they're
they're implanted and they just fly like a
they're
homing.
Correct. So all of the nukes. I'm not an expert.
I'm interested, man. I'm just like
this is maybe season 2 for Highly Unlikely. We'll talk about nukes, right? Nuclear war.
Hey, I was curious.
But the way it works now, they're all underground, like buried super duper deep into the ground, so that like you couldn't just like shoot it and so they're hidden in a very safe places underground. They launch and then satellites guide them to their destination. So actually, one concern is that now like, who's going to own space, basically, right? Like, what I mean is like, is currently America has most of the domination over like space and satellites, but there's fear that China could then take over the space, and then you're sort of at the mercy of, if you buy into the narrative,
Space Race 2.0.
Well, no, seriously. So like, let's say for example, some government, I don't want to just keep throwing it at the Chinese. So any country, right? Just whatever country, they become the dominant force in space. If they had like super satellites that could take out all of another country's satellites, and they win, because like all of the drones we have, all the technology that we use in modern warfare depends on satellites in space being effective. So it's the same reason like the only time that like Al Qaeda was able to hurt the U.S. was 9/11, because they had to do something like hijack a plane. What I mean is like, we have drones, they don't. There's like it's a completely impossible war for them to win when whatever weapons they have, the U.S. military has much more. So
it's like cowboys and Indians type deal.
Yeah, kind of, right. So like, same thing where like one had bows and arrows, the other had guns. Now it's like one has guns and some rockets, but the U.S. has drones. So if you just level that up again, if another country has the space technology to wipe out someone else's satellites like that, then they win automatically. Like by default, they're gonna win the war. This is a very weird tangent.
No. I love getting into this shit because it's so interesting to think about. Like with the 1,000-year mark, when you're like, I don't know, and it's interesting to dive in and talk about it because, I mean, nobody knows, but it's like crazy the fact that we do have that potential, and we've had it for a long time to destroy everything.
Yeah,
it's like that.
Think about this: the amount of time. You've seen Back to the Future Part 2? You remember?
It's been a minute.
But you vaguely, right.
Yeah.
From the time that Marty McFly went from 1985 to 2015, like from, that was the time he jumped. That's from 1991 to now. Think about like, what I mean is like, think about like in the movie setting, that was like, oh, it's so far in the future. How crazy is it? Like, imagine life now, just 30 years. Like, we couldn't even like in 91. Imagine trying to explain to somebody in 91 what the world was going to be like today.
Yeah,
with the internet and podcasts and Uber and Amazon, none of that existed. Wikipedia, it was all like, you couldn't even begin to explain it to someone, and they would be like, "That makes sense." And so to me, 1,000 years from now is like, I mean, dude, think about 50 years from now, how different the world's going to be.
Well, for sure. I guess I just have like too much faith in mankind, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I feel like there's still, even if there was a huge fucking crazy war that went on, I still feel like there would be some people somewhere in a weird corner of the world that would like still exist.
Yeah, for sure.
Which would be crazy, like a whole new like fucking beginning.
There's theories that like that's why when you like they've discovered like the ancient pyramids and they still don't know how they were built, and there's theories that humans were very, very smart at one point in time when they built these incredible structures, and then some kind of pandemic or warfare or a modern ice age wiped out most people, and the humans that survived forgot everything. Like, think about this. Think about if there was some sort of like nuclear fallout and like 50,000 people on Earth survived and had to regrow civilization. Within 2 generations, all history, math, science, all that shit would be forgotten.
Yeah.
Unless you could somehow save...
And especially if they were all spread in little different corners.
Right. Unless you figured out a way to like save all the servers that have the internet data and keep them going and then reignite them. If you can't...
They wouldn't even know how to access
That's
them
what I'm saying, right?
it is crazy to think about.
I mean, dude,
just diving. Yeah, it's fucking.
This pandemic was apocalypse light. You know what I mean? Like in the like April when it was a little scary, and we got the first taste of like what it would be like, and it was still, at least in the U.S., pretty mild, and people were freaking out. We are not cut out for an apocalyptic event. Most of us would just die very quickly.
Yeah.
Think about it, dude.
Yeah, for real shit.
How many humans even know how to grow food? Really, I don't. I mean, I know you put seeds in the ground, but I don't. I'm sure it's way more complicated to grow crops than to just be like, I don't know, you water the seeds and hope.
And that's where like my fallback, if everything ever like hits the fan and we gotta like go independent and we did like something crazy, I just roll back with the fam because some of my family does have land and knowledge of some of the crop stuff and whatnot, and I'm just like, yo, I'm post up, I'm gonna go fucking hunt,
dude.
Like I'm gonna get like just fucking old school, build a log cabin and shit.
Have you been hunting before?
No, not really.
Yeah, it's so again, it's not a thing where you're like, yeah, I'll just like find a deer. Like,
but my brother has.
Oh, okay.
My brother's literally built his own bow.
You got people who will teach you.
He's built his own bow and killed his own deers.
Nice.
I don't know. Is deers a plural?
I think you say deer. I don't think there's an S.
Yeah. Okay. So,
but
like,
it's confusing.
I guess I'm just saying he's hardcore. So I was roll with him. I'm like, dude, I got your back. Let's go.
Yeah.
Go.
Maybe. Listen, I hope we're still here in 1,000 years. It's possible, but I would not be. I mean, I won't know. You know, I think best. I'm 33 now, so like, if I like really lucky, like lucky beyond anything, I have 100 years left, and even that seems too long.
That'd be a nice. I would. That sounds nice.
133? That seems too old to me.
Yeah, that's. Hey, I'll go longer.
I guess it depends on what your quality of life is.
I go 500 easy.
You would want to be that old? I mean, I guess it depends.
Depends the aging process.
Right. Yeah.
Like if I was like fucking hunched over, fucking barely walking for 400, fuck that.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
There's technology. Yeah, I think I've read like the thing of it now is there's a certain age where your cells your organs start to deteriorate, and I think like the oldest person they know of made it like 122. I think it was some lady in France. And then when you get to that window, like the cells in your heart and other organs just start to fall apart. But the scientists that are working on anti-aging, they're looking at if there's ways you can reverse cell deterioration and then theoretically live forever. Which, I don't know. I mean,
that's a trip in itself.
But that would only be cool if two things. One, you have a ton of money and you don't have to worry about working. Like you have to be so rich that like, you only work when you want to. And you can just enjoy life, because otherwise, what are you going to fucking work 400 years to retire for like 30 of them? And you have to have enough people that you love to stay alive too. Or you're a psycho. But like, let's say it was like, all right, Jack, you could live for 500 years, but everybody you know, like, and love will die before you do. Like significantly before you do. Then it would be like, think about how hard it would be to build meaningful relationships if you knew that you had 500 years and everybody else you met had at most 80.
Yes, but also with that, let's say they all died, there's still the let's say there were some like grandkids and kids, and it's like,
yeah, but then you're gonna outlive your kids and grandkids.
Maybe
I would get too depressed. I mean,
it would be fucked up, but I don't know, man. I feel like I wouldn't, and I'm fucking 30 right now.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like at the same time, I'd be cool with living a couple 100 years, man. I don't know. I feel like it's fun.
Sure.
Like I don't know. I'll fuck with it.
It'd be really interesting.
But it would fuck up the society. There'd be too much overpopulation, which is already happening and shit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like I'm out here trying to live 200, but I'm trying to ride till the wheels fall off too. Fuck it. Like,
sure. It would be kind of funny too if there was only like a few people that were that old, and they would for sure just be able to dominate the podcast space, whatever, like the space of like whatever that turns into, because you would have such unique knowledge on the world,
Yeah. And with that too, it's like, even if it was 500 years, if you didn't make enough, if you could, in 100 years, think of what, if you were like younger state in 100 years, what you could acquire and do, you could have the next 400 straight.
I get what you're saying. Like if you set yourself up financially.
I mean, 100 years is a long fucking
Sure,
time.
but then you could like work your ass off for 100 years and then party for 400.
Yeah, it's basically just breaking down kind of what it is now. I feel like most people, what would you consider an average retirement age? Like 60?
I think between 60 and 65. I think it's getting older. 63. My parents were retired, and they did it, I think, around 65. I think that's like the average age now.
Yeah, and that's good, man.
Sure.
There's not many people that can say that. Like,
it's gonna get fewer and fewer.
I was about to say, especially it's gonna be far and few in between in the future.
Dude, that's something dark that I'm not excited about. But I think our generation, like millennials, we're gonna see our parents hit a retirement window where they're like, I don't think that many of the boomers and Gen X parents, they're the parents of millennials and Zs, are going to be able to financially retire comfortably the way they thought. I don't know. That's going to be rough when you see like our generation in their 40s having to financially take care of their parents because the economy is so fucked. I could be wrong. I hope I am.
Well,
but
no, that makes perfect sense too. But at the same time, in terms of us right now and what we have so much potential. Like, just even looking at, like, I was talking to my buddy who's into crypto, like the whole crypto game right now, this whole thing going on is insane.
Dude, I love crypto.
It's fucking nuts. It's like 1930s stock market, like fucking.
But that's why I dig it. I mean, I don't have a lot of money. I have a little bit in crypto, not an insane amount. But I dig that it feels like smart gambling in a way. I don't really understand. I mean, I understand it like theoretically, but it definitely seems like everybody is kind of going along with it. But here's the thing too. Here's why I think it's inevitably the future, because what the American dollar and what a lot of like back to your point with your buddy saying how much US dollars have been printed. Well, then we see that the value, like if you have $10,000 in your bank account right now, it would be stupid for you to just leave it there because it's going to go down. You have to spend it. Like our grandparents' generation were savers, but now if you save that money, it's just going to go down in value. It's almost like the way that the economy is set up. It's forcing you to invest it. And so maybe you buy a little bit in stocks, maybe you put a little bit in crypto, but like you're kind of forcing a whole generation of people to, like what I said, smart gamble with it in hopes that in 10, 20, 30 years, they're not flat broke.
And shout out to my buddy I'm talking about, Bryce, who's been on the pod, because he was also saying an interesting stat where when the stimulus came through, there was a record amount of money just like instantly injected into like Coinbase.
Oh, I'm sure.
And like, oh shit.
That's insane. Yeah, wow.
It's such an interesting time. It's fucking nuts.
It's funny too, like shout out my buddy Luke Tuma. He's a great comic and podcaster if you want to check him out. He had this hilarious bit. I forget how I'm going to butcher it, but effectively the premise was like you know how absurd 2020 was because tons of dudes who like work in an ice rink or like cut lawns for a living or whatever just overnight became like professional investors, and everybody apparently like knew like, oh, GameStop's the thing, bro, gotta buy GameStop, or like, oh, Ethereum. And it's just like all these people who have no business talking about professional high level investing stuff just became experts because they had a couple grand of their stimulus money come in, and they're just, you know what I mean? It's just like so silly.
Well, and this brings it to like what I was telling my buddies, or we were talking about. I was like, did you see that Soulja Boy shit? And he's like, yeah. Did you see that?
I don't remember this. Tell me.
Oh,
no.
It was recently. So Soulja Boy basically, somebody sent him a DM that said like, you know, if you hit this number, we're gonna pay you $24K.
Okay.
Like, and then like on this, he was just shilling this crypto.
Right.
And then so he copied the whole message and posted it to his IG.
Okay.
Without deleting the bottom part, like we'll pay you $24K if you hit 240
God.
likes. So what he does is he deletes it.
Yeah.
Takes out the line and adds the same thing back.
Oh my God. And then people are like, dude, they already saw it.
And it's just funny that like the whole game like that too. And like, and also I saw the Dave Portnoy video where did you see that one with the Safe Moon?
Right. And
that shit was fucking hilarious.
That I like, because he's like, I
honest.
don't know.
He's like, I fucking like it.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not a finance guy. I don't know. It seems cool. I'm into it, whatever. Yeah. I know that there was a big drop in crypto recently because I think it was a combination of like,
Elon Musk is some like,
he was gonna accept it, and then he said no, and now like his company won't accept crypto, and then also I think the Chinese government said that they're gonna ban it. Like you can't I know that the governments of China and India have really cracked down on crypto. I think it's because they can't control it and they don't want it in their economy, I suppose.
And that's where we that's good for us then in a way. I'm not trying to be like a fucking like against anybody, but
Sure.
like how are you not going to accept a new technology? It's like, you know
I think because they have the. Oh, you're saying like
in general, like it's eventually going
Right.
to catch up, right? Like
Yeah.
you can only avoid like what's going to happen. Like this seems like it makes perfect sense in a lot of ways, and a lot of people are really into it. I don't see everybody just all of a sudden saying, even if it dropped off. You know,
Well,
I'm speaking out my ass. I don't know much about the space.
Well, the difference, I don't know about India, but I know in China, they have a complete authoritarian control over the people. Like Facebook isn't even legal in China. Google isn't legal. Like their government controls the internet way more than the U.S. government does. So they have the ability to make it where basically like, I'm also semi-speaking out of my ass here, but my understanding is that like, if they don't want crypto to show up in the Chinese internet space, you'd have to be like a dark web expert to know how to get it and use
like
it.
a team of them.
Right. Whereas the legal risk is pretty high. Whereas at the moment in the US, that's not the case. But my thing is like, I love crypto and I think it's, the future in a lot of ways, but whenever someone or an organization that's hyper powerful is set to even maybe lose a lot of money, they're not just going to say, oh, okay, well, I guess that's what happens. No, they're going to, rain down fucking hell. Or they're going to do everything they can to hold on to their wealth and power. So, I don't know how that's going to shake out with the U.S., but I can imagine a time if crypto seems to take off in a way that the U.S. government feels like, oh, we can't get the tax revenue we used to get, or we can't control it in the way we can control the Federal Reserve, et cetera. They're not just going to be like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's how it is. They're gonna start implementing things that put a lot of restrictions on crypto. Again,
and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I also think like with that too, I think I'm sure, and I'd put everything on it. There's so much money already, government money already in the space. Right? Like they see such a potential because you could just buy it, you can inflate it, you can do whatever you want with it. There's probably so many secretive fucking back end deals. And I'm no conspiracy guy. Obviously, I sound like one.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like,
of course.
There's probably like, it'd be really easy to throw, hey, let's throw a fucking 100 mil in here.
Yeah.
Fucking get it up. Peace. Bam, bam, bam.
The only thing with crypto have you ever heard of Peter Schiff? He's like big in the podcast space. He's a finance guy. He's really into like gold and precious metals. He's super opposed to crypto. His take is that it's a Ponzi scheme. The one thing he said that made sense is like if you had a ton of gold, right, that has value, but gold is only as valuable as people decide it is, but at least it's like a physical thing. Or even if you own stock in a company, there's like labor that goes into the value of that stock. If you have stock in like, Jack Waltering Incorporated, right? Well, somebody owns stock in whatever you produce, podcasts, cannabis stuff, etc. Crypto is literally nothing. It's just like a unique blockchain. So the only reason it has value is because everybody else decides, oh, it has value, but there isn't like a physical thing on its own. Like even if everybody decided Jack Waltering Incorporated is worthless, you at least have a service that you've created that theoretically you could make valuable with better marketing or something. Whereas like crypto, it's just numbers that don't mean anything. So his whole thing was like, it's only going up in value because more people are discovering it, but eventually it's going to hit a point where no new people are getting excited about it, and then it's going to plummet. But on the other end, the US dollar, which is referred to as like a fiat currency, my understanding is fiat currency is like currencies that can be manipulated by governments. It's also potentially able to lose all its value because the US government can just print it over and over again. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think everything you said is pretty on, and I think I really do like feel the his perspective. What did you say his name was again?
Peter Schiff.
Peter Schiff, because I fuck with the precious metals like that.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, but it's like it is the inherent value of it, and it's like that's where it's just crazy to think of like. But there's still uses for those metals too, is the thing. Much like more so silver than gold, I feel like, and so other ones is like there's still actual like technology that needs silver and other shit. Yeah, that's like
it has its value. I mean, again, it's all relative, right? Like if we go back to our apocalypse scenario, well, if you had a warehouse full of gold and then a warehouse full of medicine and a warehouse full of food and water, and I asked you to pick 2 out of the 3, obviously you're going to pick not the gold. Because you live, but if it was today, of course you'd pick the gold. Yeah. So it's all,
Well, and that's the thing with crypto too, is like that. I was getting deep with my boy on this. And
Sure.
he's like, there's nothing really else that allows you to have an asymmetric bet like it does.
That's the thing. That's why people are into it.
And it makes sense. I get it. That's why it's exciting.
Yeah. So I probably spend about 50 to $100 a month. Just,
Nice.
Sometimes less depending on my paychecks. And I'll just buy a little Ethereum, little crypto, or a little Bitcoin, a little bit of Litecoin, just like random ones, like $10 here, $20 there. And again, to me, it's like, I'm not going to miss that 50 or $100. It's because over the course of the year, it's what, $1,200. It's not going to change my life.
That's a nice,
But exactly,
Yep.
in 10 years from now, that Ethereum might be worth a fuckload of money, and then to me, I'm only going to sell my crypto for a better investment. Like if I need to put a down payment on a house, then I'll sell my crypto. But I'm just going to sit on it until
just let it stack up.
And that's the plan.
And that's what I'm on the same page, because that's what I've been thinking. Like when I'm like, oh, I want to order a DoorDash. I'm like, I'll just go fucking figure something out and put 30 in.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the little shit like that.
Right.
It's to start it, but I got to get better myself. This is literally last month I started fucking putting in. I have like $100 in there.
Yeah, dude, one of my buddies bought a house off his Bitcoin, but he got invested in I want to say it was like 2015. He started getting involved. Like it was a while ago. And same thing though. He just started throwing a little money here and there, and then he had enough to throw it. I don't remember what his first investments were, but not that much money. It turned into 100,000, and he used it to buy a house, like a down payment on a house.
And that's where that shit's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I put 1,000 in and I just bought a house. Like, what the fuck?
NFTs are the ones I don't really get. Are you familiar with NFTs?
A little bit. I don't know a whole lot, but they seem a little crazy. I think they're cool, but personally, I don't. Maybe I'll come around to the idea, but I don't see much value in holding the digital asset on my hard drive or something too much.
I don't either. And it's been explained to me over and over, and it makes me feel like a dumb person, because it's like, I get it in theory, but like one of these posters on the wall, like an NFT would be like a digital, one-of-a-kind version, but it's like, why would that be any more valuable than just a copy?
Yeah, I just don't want it sitting oh, it's cool. I have so many dope NFTs right here.
Yeah. But I don't know. I guess
at the same time, I do think it's cool, the idea. I just think there needs to be a way to, and that's probably what will happen. Maybe is social media find a way to promote your NFTs, to show, just to flex your NFT. Like, yo, I just got this.
Yeah. On that note, do you know who Garyvee is?
Yeah.
Okay, so Garyvee's talked about that's what he thinks is coming in the future, where it's going to be a thing where you're networking with someone, or you're on a date, or you're whenever you interact, your NFT wallet is going to be, and I know it sounds absurd to think of how commonplace it is, but at the same time, think about when you go to someone's Facebook or Instagram, how much personal information they're just advertising to the world, to strangers, tons, right?
Very true. You could find out anything really.
Right. 30 years ago, you would have been like, why would everybody share that stuff? So it does make sense in that sense of how we might hit a world where what's in your NFT wallet is such a common thing that everybody's kind of sharing it. But I don't know. I mean, at the same time, I think about I don't know, what are trends that didn't go anywhere? Clubhouse? I mean, that's newer. But
the first thing that popped in my head was those fucking shoes with the skates in them.
Yeah, so there you go. I think kids still wear
those kind of. Oh, do they still?
I think so.
What were those things called?
Heelys?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yes. Yes, Heelys.
Heelys had the grind plates, I think.
I thought Heelys had the one wheel in the bottom too.
No, they did.
Yeah.
Soaps were the grind plate shoes. Remember soap shoes?
No, I don't know.
They were called soaps. They sold them at PacSun. I had a pair. And right where the middle of your foot was, there was a plastic curved grind plate. So you could jump and grind.
That's pretty
or
dope.
slide across a bench or something.
That's pretty sick.
And then Heelys had the wheels and the heel. Right, that makes sense.
I feel like they still probably banked out though.
Dude,
God. It's even I saw something about the ShamWow guy.
Oh yeah.
There was some crazy shit that happened with him. I don't even know, but his idea, this fucking thing that just popped off, this fucking infomercial, and fucking banked out on some.
I wonder what age. When are you too old? If I was wearing Heelys and actually used them, it would be absurd. I'm a 33-year-old man. You know what I mean? I wonder what's the oldest you could be where it's not weird to use shoes.
I don't know. If I feel like I was walking on the Strand, just rolling on the beach, and I saw you roll through on some Heelys and just stop off, what up, dude? I'd be like, what the fuck? What's up, dude?
But they're. I mean, I guess, but they're only in the heel, so you can't really go. You have to keep your toes up the whole time.
I never had a pair. Did you?
I never had a pair of head soaps. I didn't have Heelys, but I remember seeing them, and it was like you have to either be on a decline, like going down a ramp, or you have to like run and then like kind of like run and jump and keep your toes up and slide on your heels, and it's like that.
They should have had another wheel, like a little pivot.
I think the issue is that
it'd be dangerous.
You couldn't walk normally.
Yeah.
Like you can walk normally when it's only in the heel, because if your foot's flat. I mean, anyway, this is ridiculous, but.
Bro, we're diving deep on the Heelys today.
I know, yeah.
No, but it's
shout out to Heely, dude. If Heelys come back, if you want to sponsor my podcast,
I think they might.
Maybe.
I feel like there's so much shit coming back. There's always that like window.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty common. I mean, but I don't know. Heelys
are pretty, but like a doper version, like I'm saying, like where fucking you have it on your app, pop your fucking wheels out, and you're like rollerblading.
I could see that. Like they retract into the shoe.
Some just crazy shit.
That could work.
I don't know. I love what.
Yeah, maybe.
Heely, it comes out like next year. Heely's like,
should have invested. Wait, I want to try some of this pure Wana.
Head it up. Yeah, sorry. I feel rude. I poured one up.
No, please.
So I don't know how much I told you about it.
Only a little bit. Here,
man.
Look at this paraphernalia here. So you work with these guys now?
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Thankful too, man. Just diving in deep, doing sales, focusing on everything, man. Just cool events. I mean, and it really is one of a kind product. So like, it's basically fresh frozen flour in a glass.
Okay.
Strain specific. So like, this is like a 10 milligram packet.
Yeah.
The red, and the yellow is 5 milligrams.
Let me do the yellow. It's because I'm driving. I don't want to get too.
Totally. I have a 2.5 too. That's a little less if you want.
5's good. But yeah, thanks. But you know what? It's great is people like my parents. They would enjoy this. Like they don't smoke, but they would enjoy it like in a cocktail or like in a drink.
That was last night. The people that were hosting this place or who had the place, they're like, oh, we really like this. Like we don't even like to smoke really, but you know, put it in and it's like a. Kind of like having a drink. And
that is the beauty of when you regulate and legalize an industry. Personally, I don't think all drugs should be used, but I think all drugs should be decriminalized because to me, we've hit the point. If people want to do drugs, they're going to find them. Our drug problem is out of control in this country. Yeah. Cheers, man. Thank you.
Cheers, man. Give it a smell.
I like it. Yeah. It smells like kind of like citrus with cannabis notes.
Yeah, it smells like the Blue Dream fresh flower, man.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
it's clean, man. I'll throw you this box here, man, so you can experience a little more, man.
My wife's pregnant right now, and she cannot wait.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Yeah,
fucking congrats.
Yeah, about a month left, and my son will be here, or maybe less. It depends.
Wow, man! Cheers to that, dude. Shit.
So she's been sober this whole time, even though our OB, he told my wife, he's like, listen. If you have a little bit of cannabis, your baby's going to be fine. Don't, if it helps you, if you really are in pain or you're having anxiety, as your doctor, I would rather you, because there's something called the blood brain barrier with the fetus and whatever, but she's just gone totally sober, doesn't want to take any chances.
Respect.
She's a saint, man. Shout out to Rachel, my wife. But as soon as he's here, she's not going to do it right away because of breastfeeding. But once we have a little bit of a system where we'll have a little breastfeeding, a little bit of formula. She's going to take a night or two. We'll, have milk put away and formula so he'll be fed, and she'll finally be able to enjoy herself. This is the longest she's gone, and she's not a huge stoner, but just for normal relaxation and stuff. So I'm sure she'll enjoy having a little of these sitting around.
Dude, dude, like I said, congrats, man. And,
thanks, dude.
And for sure, man, that's awesome too. And it's like I love how you got a game plan there. And I actually let's just throw you this one too, for real. So this is a 2.5.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I love it.
Like the beauty of this, and like when people get excited when I start talking, because a lot of people come in when I'm like, just talking to people in general about weed, about edibles and shit.
Yeah. I'm
like, so what's your favorite edible? And I'm like, do you know what's inside there? And a lot of them are like, oh well, yeah. It's like, no, not really, actually.
Yeah. Well, they don't. They also don't understand how much more psychoactive edibles are.
And they don't understand a lot of times too that it's all the vast majority of ingestibles and edibles are made with distillate.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so distillate is just, it's just basically you take everything, you take the bottom of the barrel, burn it off, high temperature, 500 degrees, and you're left just with the THC.
Okay, yeah.
what other products do, and like this does, like live products, is on a day of harvest, it's frozen instantly.
Interesting.
And then it's created to maintain the whole profile of the plant. So you still maintain the terpenes, you still maintain the cannabinoids.
See, you're like a cannabis connoisseur. I want to learn more like that kind of stuff. I just know that I like sativas more because it sends my brain into weird places. And that's like, and indica's great too, but it's just like, that's like my knowledge. Like I'm trying to get better, well versed on all this kind of stuff. Because now that with my show, people expect me, or they don't expect, but they ask me questions like that. And I'm like, well, the show's real. I know about the topics of the show. The cannabis part, I just smoke some stuff.
Well, and I'm always trying to get deeper, man. And that's where it's like, it's just interesting to learn, man. Because I didn't realize this. I've been doing this stuff for a long time, diving deep in this space, and I'm always learning every day. And it's just crazy, though. And that's why this product is so cool, and that's why it's interesting, is because it does take that education.
Yeah.
Because people are like, I just want it to taste good, and I want to get high. Like this, throw it in anything tastes good. I like drinking it in water, tastes good, but it's like a lot of people don't understand that the whole principle of like the entourage effect.
Right. Yeah.
How there's so much more to a plant than just the THC.
Did you hear about Cannabumps? Are you familiar with this?
Actually, one of the shops in Studio City, shout out Stash that Pirwana's in, told me about it. I'm like, what?
I think it got pulled off the shelves, but because
that shit was, I saw the picture. I'm like, dude, this shit's fucking funny.
Did you try it or no?
No, did you?
No, I wanted to try it. But
I got excited. I was like,
yeah.
Shit.
But I guess because, so if anybody listening doesn't know, Cannabumps, I don't know what company made it, but it was effectively like powdered cannabis that you could snort through your nose. Yeah. And it came in a little, it looked like cocaine. That was the whole thing, right? Yeah. And I think what I read is it pulled off all the shelves because a lot of the like companies, like this one for example, whoever, they're like, stop, don't make a product that makes people associate cannabis with cocaine. We don't want that, which I totally get. So then it kind of like backfired. I would have tried it. I think it'd be fun to try snortable cannabis. I don't care.
Hey, I'd fucking try it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll try it. I don't know if I'm gonna do it on the regular.
Yeah.
I just kind of feel weird. I've always had a weird thing about putting. I'm not a huge fan of putting stuff up the nose but like.
Yeah. It's also it would just be so funny to me to like people who, I'm sure they would know it was cannabis, but like in that cocaine mindset, and they're like. Because it would immediately have the opposite effect. Like you do blow, and you're like, woo, yeah. That's, you're all revved up, and you want to do more. You take a bump of cannabis powder, and you're just like, oh, man, I feel chill as fuck right now.
Look,
let's get Domino's, bro.
Well, and that's where this is also interesting, too, is that there are certain things like the sativas that you like, and that's why I think you're going to love this, is because, being strain-specific, you do get that little, like the sativas, like especially the Blue Dream is really, like, social.
Yeah. Nice.
Like it's like an energetic.
Yeah, I love having like a light sativa buzz when I'm doing stuff. When I'm like out, like if I'm mingling, socializing, just a little bit. Too much that I start talking about weird stuff like how civilization's going to end in 1,000 years through nuclear war or something. Yeah.
Oh,
people are like, bro, I'm not there yet. Relax.
Hey man, we've been having fun. We've had some good conversations so far today, man.
I love it. It's great, dude.
For real.
Well, that's like why I started my show Highly Unlikely, because I get to talk about all this weird random shit that I study when I'm high and share it with another high person, and they just, And
I really like the idea, man. Because it's like there's that, like what I saw from what you're doing is like, it's just, some of this shit's just crazy, man.
Well, what I liked about it, because it's not really a cannabis show. Like that's like the loose through line. But like a lot of the stuff in the cannabis space is specifically about the industry or the plant and all that stuff, which is great, but it's a much more narrow audience. Like a lot of audience doesn't care as much. Whereas Highly Unlikely, it just happens to involve people being high, but the conversation around weed is like 10% of the show. 90% of it is the topic or whatever like weird conversations we like, end up diving into. Like episode 2 is about like all the different ways animals mate in the animal kingdom. And my guest, Kate Quigley, super funny. She's like a regular on Joey Diaz's podcast, and she's got a bunch of like, she's in the like big in the comedy podcast space. And so we started going on tangents of like the different animals we talked about. We were like comparing them to like her ex-boyfriends, and like it was just like funny random tangents about that and like what she looks for in a dude. And it was just, again, it's like, that's why it's like fun. Like you get somebody stoned, learn about random shit, and you go into all these like fun, weird, different conversations.
And that's the beauty. That's the beauty right there, man.
That's great.
Who doesn't like to learn something new? Especially shit that kind of blows your mind. that makes you stop.
Well, that's my favorite part.
It's like makes you just stop and think for a second. Like there's no, wait, what? There's no way.
Yeah.
But then you're like, if it's on the show, then it must like it's it must be true. You know what I mean? It must be true. Like, and it makes you think, man, and that's beautiful, man.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm excited to dive in on the whole season, like I said.
Sure. Yeah.
Got to really get in it, man. And
yeah. So if people want to check it out, there's an audio version and a video version. The audio is like the full 45-minute conversation, and then the videos are like short episodes, like 12 to 15 minutes. So I just cut them down to like the funniest parts, and then add in like pop-up graphics and all that stuff. Because to me, it's like audio you can put on like right now. If you're listening to this, you're probably doing something at the same time, driving or doing your dishes. It's like a fun background thing. But video, you kind of have to keep people's attention. So this was so much work. I'm glad I did it, and it would help that I was getting paid to do this. But like when you watch the episodes, there's like not an ounce of fat on there. It's just like joke, fact, joke, fact, joke, fact, to keep it like really.
And you cut all that up?
I did it myself. Yeah.
Dope. That's what's up, man.
I learned a lot about Adobe Premiere doing this project. Like, that's another piece of advice for anybody. Yeah, it's just anything you want to learn on like how to edit or whatever. Just go on YouTube and type in like how do I do blank, and you
Straight up.
Yeah, I didn't go to school or anything. I just learned it from YouTube tutorials.
Straight up.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Pretty much.
And it's just like, and you just get so much quicker over time.
Oh yeah.
It's like bam, like by the 8th one, you're like,
yep.
All right.
Now like it's great, and now I like have this whole new skill set from doing my show. But that's the thing. I think a lot of people who put out stuff, it's a ton of time and work to do the editing. But I think part of putting long form video online is people get bored, and so it's hard to keep their attention. So if you have the resources to cut it down to like quick, very fast moving stuff, you can hold their attention. But every episode took me about a full week to edit. That's a lot of time.
There is always the flip side of that too, though, is like if it is long form and the engagement is saying, even if you are getting like a less engagement, say it's an hour long,
sure, and
let's just say you were getting 18-minute engagement,
right?
That could still analytically 18 minutes be more engagement than 15 minutes.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I think it just depends on the project.
No, and I agree with you. Like, and I should do that more often. I feel like I just do it just out of sheer like I'm just like it takes time. Like, and props to that is like it takes time to go through, cut it up. It's like, dude,
this became my full-time job for several months.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Yeah,
I wouldn't have been able to do it if I wasn't getting paid.
Yeah.
So I understand like. Even this right now, I know how long it takes to set all this shit up and schedule guests and do the, people who don't make content. And also what's interesting too is I have a few people like I freelance help with different podcast stuff, and a lot of them have already quit since we started because they see how much work it is to make a thing, and I think people misunderstand. You can make a lot of money doing your podcast. But it's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of consistency.
It's going to be a passion.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Well, it's like being an actor, comic, or anything else, dude. It's like, yeah, if you don't love it, if you don't love every second of it, do something. Stop wasting your time.
For real.
The space is very crowded.
Yeah.
Nobody's begging for your project.
Real talk.
So if you don't love this with the passion, get out.
Real talk.
Yeah.
Real talk.
Yeah.
Real talk. And that's what like I did, and I fell in love with it, man. I love this medium. I love everything about it.
Yeah.
Like the first one I did, I came home and talked to my girl. I'm like, that's like,
this is great.
I fucking love this shit.
Yeah, you've been doing True Buds for a couple years now, right?
Coming on, I'll be 2 years here in like November.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. So it's been fun. It's been weird too because this past 2 months I've just been so focus on Peerwana,
sure,
and driving sales and all that I've kind of taken a step back. But I have been doing some podcasts and. I'm about to go all in on both right now, but like
I dig it, man.
And I'm so hungry for it, and I miss it. Like I'm like,
yeah.
It feels good having you right now in the place, man. Like,
thanks, dude.
Thank you for coming through, man.
I love it. My next thing I want to do, just on that kind of note, is do my show live. So I want to do. So this is like what it would be basically, right? Find a cool venue, me and like 3 or 4 comics. We all do like 5 minutes of stand up at the top. Then there's so everybody can like the crowd gets to know the comics, right? There's an intermission, people go smoke, whatever, come back, and those 3 or 4 comics are on a panel, and then I'll do an episode like whatever the topic is, right? Like the CIA or something crazy, and then it's like a 30 to 45-minute live podcast with the 4 guests together, with like responding as I'm like teaching them shit, and then I don't know.
Well,
make it part of an event or something.
Well, and that's what that's what I was scheming the whole time. I'm smiling over here, listening to what you're saying. I'm like, maybe somehow we can incorporate, and that's the beauty of this, dude. And I broke it open. I broke it open in Third Wheel, and I love Third Wheel. It's like,
yeah,
but it's like it's the beauty. This is the beauty of like some of this shit. And some dudes last night at the event were like, dude, I couldn't imagine having this in high school.
I know,
like,
right?
People sneaking out, like you could just drink. And I'm not like promoting this. This is not like part of the brand.
Please
image.
be
So,
21.
Yeah, please.
Or 18
please
with medical.
Be good, but you know what I'm saying. Like it was just funny that they said that. I'm like, yeah, it's
dude. Let's talk off air. I would love to figure out some. Yeah, I got some ideas for you.
Yeah. We'll be scheming, man.
Yeah,
we'll be scheming. So yeah, man. What else is dude? That's big. I think I was about to say what else is new, but you got a little boy on the way, man, and you got all this other, all the business, everything else you're crushing aside. That's crazy, man.
Thanks, dude. I got a few other projects that are in the works. If anybody wants to just follow me, Alex Gettlin on all social. Just some other cannabis media projects, and my kids come in and stand up here and there. Now that it's like finally returning, there's like finally shows again, so that's cool.
Yeah, how does that feel? Does it feel? It feels good.
It feels great. Yeah. It's funny because it was like a full year between when I did a couple like Zoom shows, but that's not like my thing really. So I, for the most part, didn't do any stand up for a full year. And the first show I did back, I mean, it had literally been 13 months between sets. It felt like no time had passed. I mean, a few things I said out of order or whatever, but it was, like the classic saying, like riding a bike. I just got back up there and I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine.
Let's go.
So, I'm stoked. And now I think like this summer, I mean, we're already kind of coming into it, like shit's back in a big way,
Yeah, it's about to get
crazy.
Yeah, that's how
it's
I feel.
awesome.
That's how I feel. I'm like, shit's about to really let loose.
In the U.S., other countries, they're still super locked down. Like Singapore, for example, like they're still pretty locked down.
I love it.
But Singapore's crazy strict. My cousin lives there. She works for Citibank. Just an example, like you can get life in prison for weed in Singapore. It's like hyper strict. Now the country is like there's no trash anywhere. There's no homeless people. Everything is like super efficient. But it's like a tiny city-state country with like 6 million people. So just like with the COVID stuff. I think now you're allowed to interact with like one person outside of your household at a time or something. But I think it's because they're super close to India, and India's had a lot of like issues with like flare-ups. But in the U.S., at least, it seems like everything's back to normal.
I wonder how long workers are going to have to wear a mask.
Dude, I don't know, man. I feel bad for people. If you want to wear it, that's cool. Like, do your thing. But I feel bad for people who have to wear a mask. Like, if you're like a server or you're the checkout person at Trader Joe's. Like, if you've been vaxxed and you don't want to wear it anymore, I think you should be allowed to do that. I know everybody's got all these emotions and feelings about COVID. And
I agree with you.
It's like, dude, their job, you've got a tough job. Let people make their own choices,
Real talk.
And it's like, at this point, if you aren't vaxxed, it's because you didn't want to. And I'm fine with that. I think you should be allowed to do what you want. But my issue is people who think that everyone should have to wear the mask now. And it's like, I don't know, man. I'm skeptical of how much the masks even really helped. Like, when you think about it, like, how much did they really make a difference?
With that, too, I've always kind of thought, like, maybe it's just me personally. Like, I know I have my disposable ones, but even those blue ones, I'll wear like a bunch of times.
Sure.
And other ones, and I just put them like maybe in my glove box or somewhere. I'm like, there's a good chance I'm fucking putting more germs on this shit. It could be doing more harm for that, is what I was thinking from the jump.
Totally,
so I was like,
dude.
I was just like, dude, there's so many little variables that are like.
Look, man, the issue, as I see it, as someone who is not an expert on any of this stuff, if you have something that puts you at high risk, like diabetes or whatever, or you're elderly, or effectively if you have something where your immune system is compromised, that's the issue. And what we should have been doing, and what we still should do, is encourage people to make healthier diet choices, make healthier lifestyle choices, like getting more sun, exercising, just all those things that improve your immune system's chances at fighting this. But I think for whatever reason, people don't like that because then they feel like, oh, you're shaming someone who maybe is unhealthy by chance, or it's out of their control. And it's like we get so caught up in worrying about like whose feelings we're hurting or who we're offending, which that has value, but not at the expense of giving people honest and accurate information. Like if we really were taking this seriously, we would be hounding people every day about taking vitamins and making healthier lifestyle choices way more than like wear this piece of fabric on your face.
And it goes full circle back to, the pharmaceutical stuff we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
Is like, bottom end of the day, everything really does come down to just money.
100%.
Because there's paper in it, or else.
Sure.
Imagine a perfectly healthy planet. Like people, like if every, and I know I'm surely not. I know I love to eat out. I love a good beer.
Yeah.
And so I'm no like.
I mean, it's but you're clearly not.
You obviously love a good smoke. That's a given.
but you do it clearly in like moderation. Like you're not. I'm not shaming anyone if you want to be obese. That's your choice. But you're putting yourself at risk. Like you can't live in a world where, oh, I just want to do whatever I want with my body and not have any consequences from that. Like that's not how things work.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's how I when you said that, I thought of myself as like even like when I was like a teenager, that's kind of how I felt. I'm like, nothing really matters. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
Like, and then it hits you like, oh, actually, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know what I mean? Like, just like,
of course,
it's just funny to think like having that mindset at one time in my life is hilarious.
But that's what the nature of being a young person, I think.
Yeah. And that's how you learn. It's like, oh, well.
Or some people don't. And then, they have a hard time in adulthood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. But it can be. I mean, that's what I think too, is like you can make your shit as hard as you want. Even if you're grinding hard, it's, I don't know, just finding the little shit sometimes.
We've also made a society where we don't teach people the value of processing pain and sadness in a healthy way. We immediately want to numb it.
I was about to say, push it.
Right. Whether it's through booze or pills or a non-substance, but some sort of distraction. It's like, that's not, I mean, there's a reason that like, there's benefits to like learning how to like sit with and understand, hurtful feelings physically and emotionally, but we don't teach people that. And then we immediately wire our brains. Like if I'm sad or if I'm in pain, I immediately have to find something to cure it. And rather than like, do the hard thing and push through it and understand what this is. And so that's why so many people have substance abuse problems or toxic relationships, because we don't train people how to deal with these, negative emotions in a proper way. And we just train our brain to be like, oh, I have to get rid of this immediately. I don't know how you fix that, but I think, a society where people, if you feel pain or sadness and your first instinct is to just find something to distract you from it as fast as possible, before you understand why you're in pain or why you feel sad or anger or whatever, I think that's going to cause a lot of problems. We see it now. We see why, think about how depressed people become from social media. And we don't stop and think about well, why is it doing that? Well, because you're creating a false reality that's impossible to live up to. This is the shit in my brain now with a kid coming. I've got about maybe 8 years till he's on the internet, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're lucky,
I know,
no,
dude.
it's like and that's what comes out to the whole comparison nature too. Yeah. And you see that so much more too, and like you're saying with upcoming, there's just so many more comparisons and everything, and everybody does it. I always did it growing up. You always compare yourself, but as I grew older, I was like, that's not important. You just gotta look at them, look at whoever, but you just can only compare yourself to you and try to one up yourself. Really, that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
If you can, just that, just trying to stay positive on it, because that's. I mean, I don't know.
But it's also teaching young people especially how to do that.
Yeah, and you're right. And there's a huge, and that once again I think also comes down to money, because I feel like way more money. This sounds so fucked up, but there's way more money in pain than happiness.
Yeah, dude. Of course.
So why go out of the way to do it when you could just greed is a fucking powerful fucking.
You're totally right.
Thing.
It's also so much easier to numb pain than to find true fulfillment and happiness.
Absolutely.
Think about how easy it is to numb pain. It's finding true happiness. I'm in a marriage right now and it's wonderful, but it's a lot of fucking work. My wife's my favorite person on earth, but it is not just I kicked up the feet, it's a piece of cake. It's no, dude. It's working at something every day.
Real talk.
And I'm sure fatherhood will be the same thing. It'll be awesome and god damn it, this is so exhausting. But everything cool is.
Yeah.
Nothing awesome is just like, yeah, it was super chill, didn't have to really work that hard, and
just came on in, just came into the
I mean, the proof of that is like the children of billionaires who end up with like substance abuse problems, and they have theoretically they have everything they could ever want, and they're because it's not about money, you have to find fulfillment.
And you hear that too with even people that were like self-made who've gone in these mansions and made all this money. They go in like, oh well, I don't feel much different.
Of course,
but like even still, like even knowing that and feeling that, and like I feel like it wouldn't make me. Like, I feel like I would feel different. Like even just not like if I walked into like today, if I walked into like a fucking $3 million mansion, I feel like if I for the first time I'd feel different. I'd be like, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, but you didn't grow up in that. And $3 million is still low in the spectrum of like, dude, $3 million for a house in LA is like a normal house, which is absurd to say, but like. I live in Van Nuys, and like right near me in Sherman Oaks, there's houses that are just standard, like 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, $3 million houses, which is just.
You can still find some cool like little beach shit though for that much too.
I mean, that would be great. I would love to.
I don't know. That's my vibe. That's what I fuck with.
To move out to the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the beach. I'm like,
you seem like a beach guy.
Yeah, I do. I love it. I miss it. There's something about sunshine. I was soaking up the sun before you got here, just sitting there. I was like,
I could see you open up like if there was like. How you say Purawana? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Purawana. Yeah.
Yeah, Purawana like drink cafe, like Jack's Purawana, and then you just go in there, order it like the same way you go to like a coffee shop, but it's all like cannabis drinks, and it's like right on the boardwalk down on like Redondo Beach or something.
That's a dope. I like that. That's a good idea, man. Yeah, and we're doing stuff like that, trying to do like pop-up bars and stuff, and just
Yeah. Well, I got some ideas. We'll talk off air.
Yeah, man. It's options are limitless.
Yeah.
We can get really creative with it, which with the creativity in the space and whatever, like any space, any creative field is just where it's at.
That's what I love about the cannabis space now, at least from the people I met in LA. There's so many like cool hustlers in it, like hustler in a good way, like people who are like really into like, coming up with products like this and marketing it to people and showing like, hey man, it's not like, just Cheech and Chong and Snoop Dogg. Like this is like cool, like enjoyable products for everybody. Like this is just like this reminds me of like emergency powder. Remember like the vitamin C powder? Yeah. It's like, yeah, but this is vitamin THC, and you just drop it in your drink, and 2.5 is perfect. Because someone like my mom who doesn't consume any cannabis, but I'd be like, Mom, it's like nothing, and she would have it, and she'd be like, this feels great. It's like, right, because it's a very small amount, and you're not smoking it. It's just a little powder in your drink. That's a big part of it. Once the edible, I guess this is considered an edible, right?
Ingestible, but essentially, yeah.
Once the ingestibles became what they are now, I think that's what really kicked the door open. Because the vapes and the smoking,
you're right.
A lot of people are like, ugh. But when you have it in this kind of, when it's in the same delivery method as things that you already enjoy, it's way more palatable to like the boomers or people who just don't normally associate themselves with cannabis stuff.
And that's very well said. And that's a huge thing we're focusing on too, is lounges.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, that'd be great.
Just getting it, like, and people will love to have it, man. And I've even told people that, like, oh, I love this is cool because I don't like to drink, but I go out with my friends and are always drinking.
Dude,
I'm like, order a virgin mojito and throw it in.
Perfect. Right. Yeah.
It's just like,
you hear that? Spike your own drink. But you're right, dude. I mean, I had a little beer when we came in here, but I'm not really a big drinker. I prefer cannabis. I will only drink now if it's like a celebratory thing or I'm like hanging out with a friend, but like just on my own, no, I always prefer cannabis. And like, dude, zero hangover.
Dude,
I mean, it's so much better. No calories. Booze is so much worse for you.
And that's why this is like a great replacement too. And it's mind blowing because it is supposed to be sessionable like that too. Yeah. So I'll like have 10 and I'll chill, I feel it 10, and it's like it does kind of build on it.
Totally,
just like having cocktails, and it is kind of crazy the experience you can have with it.
For sure. The only thing I think people don't realize is it takes a minute to kick in, and that's what I think for some folks they get in trouble because they underestimate how long, and then they'll do like way too much, and that's always
that's where this is rapid onset though too.
Dude,
but still, it takes a minute though.
Yeah.
It could take 5 minutes. You can start feeling a little buzz. 15, 20. 15, you should be feeling pretty good.
Dude, we should use this on season 2 of Highly Unlikely.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm like.
We'll
I want
talk.
because it's so like studio friendly. It's
Totally.
just anywhere friendly, really.
I love it.
It's like, trust me, I love a good fucking smoke. Never get me like I wish I was just smoking on this J you gave me. Thanks again. I got a couple left over too.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's nice, man. I was enjoying it over here. Got me feeling good.
I have so many of those. So every time I do a show like yours, I bring it as a gift to whoever I'm hanging with. Yeah, it's great.
I love that.
Yeah.
Give a little something, man. Got you on the Pirouana here today.
Dude, yeah, I love it. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I'll have you at the next event, man. It was fun doing this last one. So, but I like the idea of the comedy show because I feel like, I know we're kind of brainstorming live here, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like it'd be cool to incorporate, having drinks within that with this. So because it's like I'm saying, it's cool. You don't have to have smoke all in the air, and I still love that. But you can do more.
Way more options.
Yeah, it gives you way more options.
Yeah, I've got a lot of things I'm going to talk to you about when we're off air, just because some of you got to hold out. Yeah. But follow me and Jack because there's gonna be cool stuff coming. Other than these powders for the drinks, do you guys make anything else, or is that pretty much it?
This is what it is. Yeah, just the world's first live strain specific cannabis spirit.
Yeah.
But it is strain specific though, so we do come out with new strains all the time. Like we have several coming down the pipeline. Like this is XCH13, Super Lemon Haze. We got Venom OG, Purple Punch.
I love it, dude.
Tried the strawberry cheesecake that's coming last night, dude.
Okay.
Money.
Let me ask you this. Okay, so the strain, I'm learning a lot more about the strains now. I have had a hard time trying strain to strain and being able to pinpoint how I can feel different from like indica to sativa, but from strain to strain, it's hard for me to be able to pinpoint like the different feelings I'm getting. Do you find that like you can actually identify like, oh, this high really does feel like a strawberry shortcake high, or I don't know, like do you?
To be 100% honest with you, and obviously I do sales for them, and it sounds like sales reppy as fuck, but it's like not typically as much. But like my first time really through this Pirouana experience of actually having it through this ingestible experience, I do notice like even through the sativa hybrid, like the Blue Dream is like a little more uppity. I feel like a little more like that. Super Lemon Haze still is, but it still feels a little more subtle.
Yep.
Like that's when I feel like I've been able to craft my experience the best. But like when I smoke it, if it's like a really sativa leaning or really indica leaning, I feel like I can feel it. But if there's like any middle ground, it's hard.
Yeah.
But still, some of that could definitely be chalked up to placebo effect.
Sure, I guess.
But I feel like I can tell from if it's like, but there's some mid ground stuff, and it's hard to, the whole strain topic is really convoluted, and there's a lot to that, and there's a lot of talk around it, and it's just really interesting. I love talking about it because there's a lot that people it just gets chalked up as that, and it might even not be. It's just a good defining factor.
Sure,
but it's definitely there if it's a legit strain, and that's where it's dope too. Is like where these are made, like we actually go to the farm, like Frogville Farms, where it's made. Like we see the fresh buds. Like there's pictures of our buds. Like if you go follow Frogville Farms, you can see the buds that are going to be frozen on harvest and put into this.
Yeah, and
it's like that to me is
and
dope.
The freezing is what separates you guys. It's a more unique process.
Yeah, because you maintain the whole profile of the plant. Whereas it's a cold method. Just like if you were smoking like a live resin vape, it's a similar process. So it's like you maintain the whole plant, whereas distillate, you're just getting the THC. Everything's burnt off and distilled like in liquor. Right.
Interesting. Cool, man. There's so much to it.
There's a crazy. Obviously, I love this shit. I could go on forever, but I mean, we've been going for a minute. We're hour 24 in, man. Wow. So I think appreciate you coming in, man.
Dude, it's great.
Everybody, stay tuned because we're gonna get some good shit going, man.
Yeah,
I'm excited for the next season. I'm excited for everything you got going.
Hell yeah!
Congrats on everything, man. Yeah. For real, man. It's good having you here, man.
Thank you.
I know it's a little humble setup, man, but it's nice though. Bro. Thank you, man. Thank you, bro.
All right, good shit.
Hey, good shit, man.
We're true buds now.
Yeah, buddy. We've been since
since our last one.
I think you No, you were doing one of my sessions, right? Is how we first.
This is True Buzz, that Mary J. Now we ain't new to this. For my stoners and for my cannabis enthusiasts, never heard a show as good as this. Number one, it's the best. Bringing in many special guests in the industry of cannabis. Business owners to growers, even artists you know of. So sit back and just roll up. Perfect show for my smokers. True Buzz, ayy.